What's going on, guys? Metal Music Junkie here, aka John Browning. And today's going to be the final part of the best rock and metal albums by year from Decade series, and we are in the 2010s. Why am I not doing 2020s? Well, as I said in the first part of the series, we're only 4 years into the decade. And in my opinion, the 2010s probably might be the weakest decade in rock and metal. I mean, there was, of course, good stuff and plenty of new talent that came out that decade, but I don't know. In my opinion, it just wasn't as strong as previous decades, and I don't really have a lot of records from that year physically, but there's still a lot of good stuff that came out that year. So without further ado, let's begin. Alright, so we're in 2010. Pretty decent year. You had Avenged Sevenfold Nightmare, Whitechapel, New Era of Corruption, Bring Me the Horizon, There Is a Hell, Parkway Drive, Deep Blue. But for me, this was easy. My favorite album of 2010, I kind of consider as kind of a comeback for them because the couple albums before this, I mean, they were still good, but they weren't as great, but they weren't as good as other albums. But to me, I consider this a true return, kind of a comeback for them. So my favorite album of 2010 is Diamond Eyes by Deftones. And kind of before this, they were kind of at a low point. Saturday Night Risk, while it was good, there was a lot of tension with that record due to Chino's drug abuse during that time. And they were going to write a heavier album as a follow-up to Saturday Night Risk, but their bassist, Chi Chang, got into a really bad car accident that left him in a coma for years until he eventually died in 2013. So they scrapped the album, and they recorded this, which I think this is a fucking great album. Some of their heaviest riffs is on this, actually. Some of their best songs is on there, like the title track, Royal, Command Control, You've Seen the Butcher, Beauty School, Rocket Skates, Sex Tape, Risk, 976 Evil, This Place is Death. It's a fucking great album. So, my favorite album of 2010, Diamond Eyes by Deftones. Alright, we're in 2011 now. Decent year. You had Suicide Silence, Black Crown, Machine Head, Unto the Locust, Mastodon, The Hunter, Anthrax, Worship Music. Some good stuff came out that year, but I decided to go with this. This is one of my favorite albums by this alternative rock band. So, my favorite album of 2011 is Wasting Light by Foo Fighters. This might be one of their best. Might be their best. I'll have to really think about that. Who knows? Maybe I might do a Foo Fighters ranking one of these days. But this was recorded at Dave Grohl's garage in Virginia, and a lot of really good songs on here: Bridge Burning, Rope, Dear Rosemary, White Limo, Aerolandria, These Days, Back and Forth, Walk. This is a fucking great album. So, my favorite album of 2011, Wasting Light by Foo Fighters. Alright, 2012. Solid year. You have Meshuggah, Coalesce. You have Cattle Decapitation, Monolith of Inhumanity, Dying Fetus, Reign Supreme, Cannibal Corpse, Tortured. Those are just to name a few. But, decided to go with this. My favorite album of 2012, and for these next several albums, I do not own a physical copy of them, so I'm just going to talk about them. My favorite album of 2012 is Koi No Yokan by Deftones. Actually, when I was first getting into Deftones, this was actually one of my least favorite Deftones albums. But as time went on, the more I listened to it, the more I loved it. And now it's probably in my top 5. So many great tracks from that album. Swerve City, Tempest, Rosemary, In Tune, What Happened to You, Poltergeist. I mean, Leathers. So many fucking kick-ass songs on that album. So, my favorite album of 2012, Koi No Yokan by Deftones. Alright, now we're in 2013. In my opinion, kind of a weak year for music. I mean, not very many good albums came out that year. There were some, of course, but I mean, it was kind of in the middle of the mediocrity known as like the scene bands. I mean, there were some good bands from that era, like Bring Me the Horizon and all the deathcore bands, but it had a bunch of shit bands like Asking Alexandria, Attack, and Of Mice and Men. Like, shit I just did not like. Now, if you like it, I respect your opinion. I'm just saying my opinion. But you still had some good stuff came out that year. Ghost, Infesticism, however you say it. Queens of the Stone Age, Like Clockwork. Trivium, Vengeance Falls. Some good stuff. But I decided to go with this. I could not talk about really albums from the 2010s without talking about this album. So my favorite album of 2013 is Sempiteternal by Bring Me the Horizon. Wish I had it because it's probably one of the best albums of the past, probably the century, to be honest. So many great songs on there. Shadow Moses, Antivis, House of Wolves, Go to Hell for Heaven's Sakes, Can You Feel My Heart, Sleepwalking, Hospital of Souls. I mean, so many good songs. In my opinion, this is when Bring Me the Horizon really perfected their sound. I mean, they always change sounds, but this is, to me, Bring Me the Horizon at their best. So, my favorite album of 2013, Sempiteternal by Bring Me the Horizon. Alright, 2014, another weak year, in my opinion. But you still had some good stuff that came out that year. You had Slipknot, Point 5, The Great Chapter. Motionless in White, Reincarnate. I think that's the name of the album. Or I know it's one of the songs. Judas Priest, Redeemer of Souls. Those are just a few that I liked from that year. But I decided to go with this. One of the best extreme metal albums of that decade. So, my favorite album of 2014 is The Satanist by Behemoth. Now, I'm not like the biggest black metal fan in the world, but I love Behemoth. I know they're black and death metal, but still great. If you hear any noise in the background, that is thunder, so ignore that. So, a lot of really good songs from that album. O Father, O Satan, O Son, Blow Your Trumpets, Gabriel. I mean, so many good songs from that album. So, my favorite album of 2014, The Satanist by Behemoth. Alright, now we're in 2015. Kind of a trend. Not a lot of, kind of some weak years in music. But for 2015, so many good albums. Well, not really, but there were some good ones. Lamb of God, Sturm and Dane. What else? Oh, I think Code Orange came out with an album that year. Can't remember what it's called, though. It's kind of... Thy Artist Murder with Holy War. There were some good ones that came out that year, but kind of not a lot of, like, standouts. Except for this one. So my favorite album of 2015 is Meliora by Ghost. To me, this was kind of when Ghost really started getting mainstream attention. Some really good songs from that album, From the Pinnacle to the Pit. Cerise, He Is. A lot of really good songs from that album. It's probably my favorite Ghost album. I'll have to think about it. So, my favorite album of 2015, Meliora by Ghost. Alright, 2016. Really good year, actually. You have Megadeth, Dystopia, Anthrax, For All Kings, Dillinger Escape Plan, Disassociation, Knocked Loose with laugh tracks. Sorry, I had to think about it for a moment. So, but I decided to go with this. I almost went with the Knocked Loose album, but I decided to go with this. Might be my favorite album from this band's modern era. But, so my favorite album of 2016 is Hardwired to Self-Destruct by Metallica. Now, their previous album, Deftones, I liked it, but the production was pretty much ass on that album. But this one was really fucking good. Yeah, Hardwired, Atlas Rise, Now That We're Dead, Mopping the Flame, Am I Savage? I don't know what. I didn't really like that. Halo on Fire. Confusion's pretty good. Dream No More's pretty good. I did not like Man Unkind, really. Or Here Comes Revenge. Murder 1 was good. That was a tribute to Lemmy. And one of the best closing tracks, in my opinion, they ever had. Spit Out the Bone. So, my favorite album of 2016, Hardwired to Self-Destruct by Metallica. Alright, now we're in 2017. Decent year. You have Code Orange, Forever, Mastodon, Emperor of Sand, Motionless in White, Graveyard Shift, Black Dahlia Murder, Nightbringers. A lot of really good shit came out that year. But I decided to go with this album. In my opinion, they're one of the best bands of the modern thrash scene. So my favorite album of 2017 is Nightmare Logic by Power Trip. I mean, in my opinion, they might be the best band of that scene. Rest in peace to Riley Gale. So many good songs on that album. Executioner's Tax, Firing Squad, the title track, Soul Sacrifice. A lot of really good songs on that album. So my favorite album of 2017, Nightmare Logic by Power Trip. Alright, 2018. My opinion, pretty weak year in music. So much, in fact, I can't really think of... I generally can't really think of much albums from 2018. I know High on Fire released an album that year. That was really good, but I cannot remember the name of it. So I decided to go with so I could go with a default choice. So my favorite album of 2018 is Firepower by Judas Priest. This album proves that Judas Priest is still going strong to this day. I mean, a lot of kick-ass songs on here. Never the Heroes, the title track, Lightning Strikes, Never Surrender. A lot of kick-ass songs on that album. Rob Halford still has it. So my favorite album of 2018, Firepower by Judas Priest. So, finally we're in 2019. So, some really good stuff came out that year. Killswitch Engage, Atonement, Slipknot, We Are Not Your Kind, Korn, The Nothing, As I Lay Dying, Shaped by Fire. Some good stuff came out that year. But I decided to go with this. In my opinion, they're one of my favorite modern bands ever. My favorite album of 2019 is A Different Shade of Blue by Knocked Loose. I mean, they're the band. They're one of the bands that are keeping metal and hardcore alive. I mean, I'm sure most of y'all know who they are, but if by some reason y'all don't know who Knocked Loose is, go check them out. What are you doing? In my opinion, their new album that came out this year is probably the best one, but this is great as well. Yeah, Mistakes Like Fractures, Belleville. They actually did a song with a singer of Every Time I Die on there. That's really good as well. So, my favorite album of 2019, Different Shade of Blue by Knocked Loose. Alright, that is it for this series. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I enjoyed making this series. I will see you in my next video, so like, comment, subscribe. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Don't gatekeep, and rock on.